Let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're zeroing in on Chapter 19 of Morgan Housel's phenomenal book, The Psychology of Money. It's called All Together Now, and honestly, it's basically the ultimate behavioral blueprint for achieving financial freedom. If you've ever wondered how real, lasting wealth is actually built behind the scenes, well, you're in exactly the right place.
I mean, think about that for a second. What if you could learn the entire psychology of wealth in just one single chapter? Sounds kind of crazy, right? But that's exactly what we're tackling today. By the end of this explainer, you're going to have a complete practical framework for mastering investing, managing risk, and honestly, just finding financial happiness.
Okay, Section 1, the ultimate wealth myth.
Moving right along to Section 2, the tale of two investors.
So, we see this classic contrast literally all the time. On one hand, you've got the strategy chaser. You know the type, right? The anxious optimizer. The guy with 6 monitors, chugging coffee, frantically hunting for that one perfect golden investment strategy to maximize returns. They trade constantly, fully convinced that the secret to wealth is hidden in some complex math equation. But then look at the completely opposite approach, the patient saver. This person isn't trying to outsmart Wall Street. Instead, they focus entirely on what they can actually control, stuff like their savings rate, keeping their emotions in check, and just making sure they avoid any major unforced errors.
Let's actually map this out over a 20-year timeline to see how it usually plays out. Year 1, they both pick their paths. The strategy chaser is immediately off to the races, desperately trying to catch the next hot stock. Meanwhile, the patient saver just quietly sets up some automatic deposits and goes back to their life. Now, fast forward to year 10. The market inevitably hits a snag. Massive uncertainty, maybe a crash. What happens? The strategy chaser totally panics, rips up their plan, and tries to time the bottom. But the patient saver, they just ride it out. They keep a cool head. And then we get to the big reveal at year 20. The patient saver, surprisingly but honestly inevitably, pulls way ahead. They're wealthier. Not because they had a better spreadsheet or some insider knowledge, but simply because they had a better temperament.
And that brings us to this absolutely crucial takeaway. Money is so much less about intelligence and so much more about behavior. Seriously, pause and just let that sink in for a second. It completely levels the playing field. You don't need a fancy PhD in finance to win at this. Your financial destiny isn't dictated by the raw processing power of your brain. It's dictated by how you act, how you react when things get scary, and the daily, seemingly boring habits you choose to stick with. How you behave fundamentally beats what you know, every single time.
Section 3. The Simple Wealth Principles. You see, building real wealth actually relies on a surprisingly simple set of core principles. It's a mix of steady, repetitive action, like saving consistently and investing for the really long haul, combined with playing a strong emotional defense. By that I mean actively avoiding unnecessary risks and staying intensely patient, even when the market is throwing a massive tantrum. Ultimately, it's about prioritizing your own true personal freedom over just trying to look rich to your neighbors. Now, the real challenge here isn't understanding these ideas. They're pretty basic, right? The actual difficulty is having the guts to stick to them when your portfolio drops 20% in a single week.
Let's define this incredibly clearly so we absolutely never forget it. Your biggest financial advantage, it isn't your knowledge, it's your behavior. Your everyday routine actions matter so much more than your financial IQ. Think about it. You could memorize every single stock valuation metric on the planet, but if you panic and sell everything the minute the market takes a dip, well, all that knowledge is completely useless, right? Your behavior is the ultimate bottleneck. It's the filter that all your knowledge has to pass through.
And this perfectly explains why most people actually fail at this stuff. It is almost never a math problem, it's a psychology problem. We panic when the news cycle turns negative, we look at our neighbor's brand new car or some flashy social media post and instantly start comparing our own behind-the-scenes reality to their highlight reel. We chase quick, easy money, we totally underestimate hidden risks, and, maybe worst of all, we wildly overestimate our own ability to predict what's going to happen next year. Those behavioral traps, they will destroy your wealth infinitely faster than picking one bad stock ever could. So we're left with this really stark contrast between what we want to believe and the actual truth. On one side, we have the fantasy, the Hollywood version of finance. It's the dream of getting unbelievably lucky on one single massive trade, or finding that hidden gem of a stock before anyone else, or perfectly timing the market top.
It's thrilling, sure, but it is almost entirely fiction. Then we have the reality. Building lasting wealth is grounded in pure, unglamorous survival and relentless discipline. It is about waking up and being consistent day in and day out. It's about extreme, almost boring patience and simply making sure you stay in the game long enough for compound interest to finally do the heavy lifting for you.
All right, moving right into section 4, habits, the do's and don'ts.
As we go through these, I'd really encourage you to do a quick mental audit of your own habits because these are essentially the non-negotiable rules of the game. Do focus strictly on your own behavior and don't get distracted chasing flashy shortcuts. Do invest regularly, whether it's raining or shining out there, and absolutely do not compare your financial journey to anybody else's. Do be intensely patient, and whatever you do, don't panic during totally normal market volatility. Do stay humble and respect how unpredictable the market is, rather than risking your whole nest egg on some random hunch. And finally, do think independently. Don't seek status through reckless spending. Remember, true wealth is usually what you don't see. It's the luxury cards not purchased and the flashy watches not bought.
Now, if you want to keep this financial blueprint totally intact, no matter what kind of chaos the world decides to throw at you, you need to lock in a few essential daily habits. First off, saving more than you spend. That is literally the fundamental law of gravity for wealth. You have to think long-term. Start measuring your progress in decades, not days or weeks. Always keep room for error. Keep enough cash on hand so a random surprise expense doesn't completely derail your life. Stay invested even when the uncertainty is literally making you sweat. And you have to ruthlessly control those twin demons of fear and greed. That is how you protect your ultimate freedom.
Section 5, the power of consistency. I really want to hit this point home. You absolutely, categorically do not need a single stroke of genius or one crazy lucky break to succeed financially. Too many people end up totally paralyzed because they somehow think they need to be the visionary who invents the next trillion-dollar tech company or the savant who buys the exact right asset at the exact perfect millisecond. You do not need to make one brilliant decision to be wealthy.
The actual truth? It's so much simpler than that. Wealth is built by making pretty good, sometimes incredibly boring decisions repeatedly for a very, very long time. Boring repetition and extreme longevity, those are the true engines of immense wealth. It's just putting away a little slice of every single paycheck, month after month, year after year, decade after decade. It's that quiet, totally unremarkable persistence that eventually, almost magically, compounds into a massive mountain of financial security.
And that brings us to what I think is the absolute ultimate power line from Chapter 19. Financial success is not about what you know, it's about how you behave. Honestly, I want you to permanently cement this quote in your mind. Whenever you feel that sudden, nagging urge to do something drastic with your investments, or whenever you feel kind of inadequate because you don't understand some complex new financial jargon, just remember this. Your behavioral discipline is, without question, your absolute greatest asset. We've walked through the blueprint. We know for a fact that the anxious strategy chaser ultimately loses to the calm, patient saver. We know exactly which daily habits actually build true, lasting security. All the tools are right here in front of us. So the only question left is, will you master your behavior so the money can follow? Because the truth is, once you finally get out of your own way and just let consistency do its job, financial freedom isn't just some distant possibility, it becomes an absolute inevitability. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. And hey, I really encourage you to take a hard, honest look at your own habits today.